Alrighty, item number 34, 29 Lincoln Boulevard. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the owner, a previous decision by committee affecting this property, and Forestry is asking for condition number 1. And, okay, that's everything we have before us. I have nobody listed to speak in opposition, so do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, madam.
Hi, can you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Danilo Marasigan. Please for the studio. The owner of the property.
You're not coming through very clearly. Are you using like a mic or?
I'm using Bluetooth. Maybe you could.
You know what? I can't understand about 75% of what you're saying.
Hi,
Okay,
Janello. I think you may need to step back from the mic a little bit, or if that doesn't work, I can give you a call on the number you provided.
Okay. Can you hear me properly?
Okay, I'll give you a call. Just give us a moment.
Okay, no problem.
Hi, Janello. You've been unmuted on your phone device.
Hi, hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. I don't think we need a
Okay.
we got your name, so I don't think we need
Okay.
a presentation. I'm just gonna ask the members if they
Okay.
if they have any questions. Any questions, panel members? No? Okay, Mr. Marasigan, we've read all the materials. We are comfortable, yeah, we're comfortable making a decision. Is there anything you want to add that we should know before we go into committee?
No, I believe that I did address that on our letter of intent. So, I'm for further.
Oh, all right, well, let's see what happens. Okay, let's take it into committee, panel members, to make a decision on this one.
I would like to start with some comments. What do you think, Larry? I have looked through the previous proposal, but they have reduced, I believe, 5 out of the 8 variances, just to reduce the scope, and then, and I think they have made a good effort in doing so. And I do not have any problem with the new proposal. What do you think?
Yeah, I would share that view. You know, it was refused in the past for, I think, some pretty good reasons. They've come back and tried to address some of those concerns. So, frankly, this one looks okay by me.
Okay. So, are you ready to make a motion? Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a move for approval with subject to urban forestry condition number 1.
Okay. Are you seconding that, Mr. Clay? Yeah? All right, so motion to approve, including forestry condition number 1, moved by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you. All right, Carl, you back? Okay, item number 35, 984 Ossington Avenue. we have before us copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, a revised zoning notice, as well as a deferral request from the agent, correspondence in opposition from 986, actually 4 people at 986, and I have 2 of them listed to speak. Are they on the line? Okay, is the agent on the line?
Hi, George, you've been unmuted.
I'm here. Can you see me? Or?
Well, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, you just hear, right? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't see you guys. Maybe someday.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah,
That's
okay. So
yeah, there's something
you
missing
still,
in our.
yeah, you're still looking for deferral then?
Yeah, there's something missing in our zoning review, so we're just asking for a deferral to address that, and we'll reply.
Okay, will that result in
Yes.
potential changes to the variances, or?
I think I think it's about the green space. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, 'cause-
Yeah. So yeah, we'll state it clearly. I think. We
Okay.
were never intending to do 0% land, green space, and I guess that wasn't made clear on the zoning reviews. So we gotta make it clear exactly what we were talking about for green space. Yeah.
all right, sounds like a plan. I do have 2 of the 4 people that are at 986 on the line. I'm gonna go to them before we go into committee. Before I do, however, will you, if you're granted the deferral, will you be making an effort to speak to the neighbors?
We didn't know they objected. This is the first I've heard of that.
Okay, well, it's in our submission, so I'm guessing it's on the AIC. So you can have a look there. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to those 2 speakers and just on the deferral. Okay. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, Chairperson Kay, hello.
Hi. And you're at 986 Ossington, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, sir, I'm not going to have you speak right now. I just want you to, the applicant is asking for a deferral because they have to address some issues in the zoning notice and they have to come back, which means it'll be recirculated. And I hope that during this time that they can speak to you and perhaps have a conversation about your objections.
Okay, I didn't know that's the way this works, but
Well-
so is there going to be a deferral?
Well, I don't know, we're going to vote on it, but it sounds like we may have to defer this because it's related to the zoning notice, so, and in terms of this is how it works, well, hopefully not with every application, because we would be so backlogged, we'd never finish anything, but we do on occasion, for different reasons, defer applications. We did defer, I think 1 or 2 earlier today, so it does happen.
Okay.
All right? Okay, Ms. Stowe?
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if
I'm
you were
here.
listening, so basically only to the deferral. So the applicant needs to address some things in the zoning notice, and therefore we've been asked to defer this matter, and it will be recirculated. And once it comes back, you will speak then. But in the meantime, I'm hoping that the applicant can have a conversation with the neighbors at 986.
Okay, I'm still muted, by the way. Oh, okay. Am
No,
still
I
muted?
can hear you. You've been
okay,
unmuted.
okay.
You're good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that would be fine. There are other variances that we need to address and other things we need to address, and we'll be happy to do that later as well, if that's the case.
Okay, well, we can't force the owner or the agent to do it, but we strongly suggest that they speak with the neighbors so that hopefully some of these things can be mitigated.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, and I would like to ask that the speaker be made aware of our objections. If he says he's never heard of our objections, I would like them to make themselves aware.
Okay, well, I've seen the letters, so they're definitely posted on the Application Information Center, so he can pull them there and have a look at them before he contacts you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Day.
Okay, thanks, and sorry for having to wait so long, but hopefully you can work things out. Okay, Mr. Chang?
Okay.
Okay, so are you there, sir?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh,
if-
yeah, sorry, yeah.
All right, so
So you
you,
pronounced my name differently, I didn't
Oh,
recognize
okay.
it was my name you were talking.
what's the correct pronunciation?
Well, we say Chang here.
Chang. Okay, so I would really, the members would appreciate it if you can, after you're done here, go to the ASC, have a look at the objection letters, and make a commitment to speak to the owners while you get the deferral, assuming it's granted.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we just never knew about it, so we'll address that.
Okay, great. All right, panel members, let's take it into committee then. Mr. Niffel. I think you're muted, Carl.
Sorry. I'd like to move deferral of the application to allow the applicant to revise the notice, and also negotiate with those people that have raised objections today.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Ms. Chan. Okay, so motion to defer for the reasons outlined by Mr. Nipfel. Moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Ms. Chan. All in favor? Okay, so this matter's been deferred. Thank you. And moving on to item number 36, 64 McGill Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a covering letter from the agent, Mr. Smith. We have Forestry asking for condition number 1, and correspondence in opposition from number 62, which is adjacent. I am not showing any speakers for this item. Okay, you there, Mr. Smith?
I am Madam Chair, Jay Smith, agent for the application at 64 McGill Street.
Okay, I don't think we need a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith? Mr. Niffel?
There, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I
can
may
now.
not be able to answer this, but I'm wondering how your porch and stairs relate to the adjacent owner. I gather that that's the person that was objecting in the first place. You have an independent landing and then a staircase and then a guardrail. Then there is an adjacent guardrail right beside your guardrail and then another landing and stairs. Is there any way that you could coordinate the two so that you didn't have to create duplicate facilities?
Being that this is a detached home, I'm not sure that can happen. Well, it's semi-detached, but the way that it's being done, I don't believe that we can cross and have a party system for a front porch. Currently, the owner has had renovations done, which, as according to the letter you've received, has left some bad feelings between the neighbors. So I don't know that that's possible, but and the other neighbor does not have a walkout like we're proposing.
Yeah, I know that. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Mr. Niffel?
Sorry, I was gonna make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Smith, anything to add? We're ready to go into committee.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Carl.
Madam Chairman, thank you. I don't have any difficulty with this application. I was just thinking it was unfortunate that there's two guardrails, one beside the other, but I don't think there's a way of solving that. So I would like to move approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 1. This is a very minor improvement to a property that it really isn't going to have a negative impact on anybody.
Okay, do I have Ms. Chan, you're seconding, so motion to approve, moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Ms. Chan, including forestry number 1. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Okay, Mr. Smith, don't go anywhere. I believe you're on the next one. Again, I don't have any speakers listed. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from Mr. Smith. We have support from 23 and 33 Fern, as well as 26 and 32 Garden Avenue. All right, Mr. Smith, You there?
I am Jay Smith, agent for 27 Fern Avenue.
You're spending a lot of time with us today, I know.
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions on this one for the agent? All right, Mr. Smith, we're ready to go into committee. We've read the materials. Is there anything you want to add before we make a decision?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, we're in committee, panel members. Ms. Chan?
Yeah, I can start. I think that what they're proposing is very reasonable. I think variance number 2 is actually the keeping the existing condition. And I have no problem suggest for approval, subject to the standard laneway house engineering conditions.
Okay, that's seconded by Mr. Clay. Okay, motion to approve, including standard engineering conditions, moved by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, your application's been unanimously approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, you're welcome. Item number 38, 55 Lakeshore Boulevard East. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey. We have a covering letter from Mr. Brown, the agent. We have a parts list received September last year. Presentation materials from Mr. Brown, the agent, as well as a staff report from Heritage. They're asking for the standard condition that they usually have. So, do I have the agent on the line?
You do. I guess it's good evening. Good evening,
Yeah.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, and hope you guys are doing well. This is an application that was actually approved back in 2019, and then when COVID hit, there was a bunch of conditions that couldn't be met on time. There was a slight change to the parts, the construction's underway, and it relates to one phase of the development on one side of Cooper Street. I've given you presentation slides. I'm happy to go into it. It's very technical in nature, so I know you guys have had a busy day, so I'll answer questions if you'd like, and again, hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah, we hope you're doing well also, and let me see if there are any questions. Anybody? No, I think we're good. So unless we've gone through the material, so if there's anything you feel you need to add before we go into committee, feel free.
Nothing at all, thank you.
Okay. Okay, panel members, Mr. Clay. And
Yeah,
then-
sure, I'll do this one. It's very, very straightforward, very simple. I agree with the agent. It's technical, there's two elapsed, but it seems to be just a technical variance with respect to the nature of the severance. I have no problem. I think it's very straightforward, and I'm happy to move approval, subject to the heritage conditions as outlined in their email or memo. Pardon me.
Okay, Carl, did you want a second? Did you want to add something?
Yep. No, good covering letter though.
Okey doke. Alrighty, so we have a motion to approve, including the conditions in the January 19th Heritage Report, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Okay, your application's been approved, and thank you for your patience. Okay, we are now going to item number 39, 270 and 272 Floyd Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a letter from the agent. We have a lawyer letter regarding the merging of titles of these two properties. We have a staff report from Engineering and Construction Services. We have Forestry asking for condition number 3 on parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have a form letter in support from number 276. Opposition correspondence from 280, from 270, 266 Floyd, and from 301 Gowan and 170 Gamble Avenue and 268 Floyd. Let me just check the supplemental. No. Okay, so that's all the material we have before us. I'm showing 3 speakers. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nadine Irfan, and I am architect. 10 Miller Business Court, Suite 710, Scarborough, Ontario, and 1B3C6.
All right, sir. We have opposition speakers, so if I can ask you to do a presentation, please. No more than 5 minutes. We're starting the clock now.
Thank you. I would like to bring it to your attention that this, for the lot severance, there are no variances for lot frontages and lot areas. We have worked with the community planning staff in detail for this proposal. We originally submitted proposal, they requested some changes. We have done that and revised the plans and revised the zoning notices and resubmitted it. And we have a support from the community planning. Development engineering has no objection to the proposal. Forestry has no objection to the proposal, and they are asking for condition number 3. If I were to look at these variances, yes, it seems like a long list. 10 variances for the part 1, 11 for the part 2 and 3, and 10 for the part 4. I am trying to understand why these variances are there. The lot frontage which is required is 6.0. We have 6.09. The variances pertaining to the side yard and to the distances from the property line for the deck and the front yard porch and the stairs, they are there because of the constraint of the lot frontage. If we were to comply with the zoning bylaw, which is 0.9 meter for the side yard, after providing the garage width, will only be having probably 30 inches for the entrance, which is not enough to provide an entrance and to the and the garage. But right now, the front width of the house is 17 feet. If we were to go with the 0.9 and 0.9, it'll be 14 feet, and it's not desirable to develop, or it's not supporting to develop this property. So that's why we are requesting, we have the side yard setbacks. Currently, if we look at the pattern of the existing neighbors on both sides, their side yard are 0.25 and 0.35. We are providing 0.61 on each side, which is more than what the existing setback is on number 272, and enough to service the side yards of the neighbors. So we have to look at these variances in another perspective, that okay, the lot coverage and the lot floor space index and the building length, which is the second group I'm coming up with. Although we're asking the additional lot coverage, the lot can support, the lot can support additional lot coverage and the floor space index. We have no variances for the front yard. We have no variance for the rear yard. So these 3 variances for lot coverage, floor space index, and building length can be supported by the lot. There is enough amenity space at the backyard. There's enough landscape at the front. There's no variance for the front yard landscape or soft landscape. The lot can support this additional lot coverage and floor space index. The third group of the variances, which we can say is the building height and the wall height. These are there because we do not want to go deeper basement, and because this will be this may create a detrimental impact to the neighbor's foundation and footing. We have designed our building in such a way that we are not going below the footing level of the neighbors. We have a support of the community planning. We have the support from the development engineering. We have the support from forestry. We have one support letter from the neighbors. We believe the cumulative impact is very minor on the property itself or the neighboring properties, and we believe these variances are minor, and we request the committee to consider for approval.
Okay, thank you. We are going to go to the opposition speakers, and then we'll come back to you, and then you'll have 5 minutes to rebut the concerns expressed. So
Thank you.
For maximum permitted main floor height in
Is this Carol Manaker?
Carolina, I'm
Hello?
having difficulty hearing this.
Okay, I
There's
don't,
somebody speaking in the background.
yeah, okay, can you please stop talking? Who's speaking right now?
It's in the speakers. Hold on. Carol, I believe the background, there might be the speaker in your background. If you can mute all your other devices.
Heard all of the presenters prior, and there was no extra voices. Now all of a sudden, as soon as this application came up, I heard a second voice
I
behind
think
the
it's the
architect.
other committee. Just 1 second. I think it's perhaps there's another committee meeting running this at the same time. It sounds like, because we have nobody speaking here and you're the only one on the line. Well, let's try it again. What's that? Okay, Carol, I'm going to come back to you. We're just going to try another speaker and see if we have the same issue.
It's Margaret Lee, you're unmuted.
Oh, yes, hi, I'm here.
Okay, Margaret, can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Margaret Lee, and I'm at 268 Floyd Avenue.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. We're going to reset the clock, so it starts now.
Okay, I'm in the property that is immediately west of 270 Floyd Avenue. I have owned my home for almost 9 years, and I chose to buy and live in this neighborhood because I liked the charm of the bungalows, and I appreciated the space between the homes that makes it feel less crowded than many other neighborhoods. When I moved in, I noted that the housing was mixed and the large homes were being built, but it still seemed that space was being maintained between the homes. I specifically went and looked at all of the submissions by the architecture firm on homes that are similar to the one that they are proposing. And I looked very specifically at the ones with the side yard setbacks because that's my chief concern, the side lot setbacks, sorry. And I found that most of these were single homes on single lots, or they were half of a duplex. And in most cases, the driveways between the homes were maintained, which gives less density. You know, there's space to get between the houses and to do maintenance and things like that. It's not just a little 3-foot distance between the two houses. I'm not opposed to a larger home being built there, but I just feel like that these are really coming right up to the line in all aspects. The City of Toronto created bylaws for a reason, and while minor variances might be accepted, when every aspect of the build requires a variance, the totality makes the proposed structure much larger and denser than others that are on the street. Putting 3 homes on 2 lots already increases that density, and the building plan at issue seems to exacerbate it. And then I noted in my letter of objection that the setback is supposed to be 0.9 meters, and I had a little bit of a math error that day. I see now that it is, they're requesting 0.61 meters. My home was built 0.25 meters from the property line. And it was built at a time when there were driveways between each of the properties, and that creates more of the distance. But that's going to go away if that house is now right at 0.61. I don't have 0.61 on my side. I only have 0.25. So this creates a much smaller space between our homes. And I just wanted to add that I've read all the other letters of objection to this proposal, and I add my support to their arguments. I'm not going to go over all of that as well. Okay, I guess that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker, panel members? No? Okay, let's try Anna Miglieris, and then we'll try Carol again after that.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hearing us out. My name is Anna Miglieris, and I live at 266 Floyd Avenue on west of Margaret and the speaker. I cannot support this proposal as it stands, and respectfully request that reasonable modifications be made in terms of size and scale in order to preserve the character and integrity of the streetscape. not only on this section of Floyd, but also on Dewhurst. And of course, our neighbors are Gowan and Gamble, because their backyards are impacted. I have only 2 points to make, and I'm going to refrain from being repetitive. My neighbors, Carol, Margaret, and others have written excellent, detailed, persuasive letters on the details. The 2 points I want to make are this. One refers to this issue of desirability and necessity, and the other one, the issue or definition of minor. One, there is no available evidence that I could see to show that converting a 2-house piece of land into an out-of-scale detached 3 houses for profit is either desirable or necessary to the street, or in fact the community. I mean, if there is documentation on this, I would respectfully ask to review it. The plan doesn't appear to be intended for community or reasonably priced rentals or homes that even the builders will live in. On the contrary, the plan will radically alter the essential character of the street and the environment, and yet I do not see this factor addressed at all. If the plan in fact is desirable and necessary, I would wholeheartedly support it. My major issues of concern are density, of course, environmental footprint, size, scale, lot lines, coverage, floor space, the setbacks, of course, not to mention there would be destruction of a couple of mature trees. The 2 more egregious or problematic issues for me are parking, which is already problematic on the street. The 3 parking spots would literally dump into an intersection at Floyd and Dewhurst. This for me is problematic because this intersection, the community is full of children that use it, seniors who do walkabouts, and I would have concern. The second, equally egregious for me, are issues of privacy, especially for my neighbor Margaret, whom you just heard from at 268 Floyd, and on the east, 274, as well as people, homeowners or Gowan and Gamble, who have a right to the backyard view, and it will be sorely compromised. I want to add that while the homes to be demolished are not designated heritage, they do have heritage elements and form part of the character of the street. And yet again, I do not see evidence that the character of the street forms a considered aspect of the plan. Surely we can compromise and balance density without defacing the very basic character of the street. Therefore, I mean, I see the case and would support the case for 2-story buildups on the 2 existing homes. I would also see an attached townhouse, 2 or 3, that'd be very narrow. However, the proposal as is, 3 detached homes on a 2-house plot will fundamentally alter the look and feel of the street and change everything. And I do not see the necessity or desirability in that case vis-a-vis lot size, etc. That leads me, of course, to my second and final point. The application concerns me because it misrepresents the term minor. As the various letters of objection, particularly Carol's, Margaret's, and others, will show. There is very little that I can read that's minor about the proposed variances. They seem to push at the boundaries of what that word means. The build will radically change our beloved street and neighborhood, which is full of young families with kids, seniors who purchased homes to retire, and in some, with some sense of tranquility and ability to go out in the yard and enjoy the fresh air. And this is not sentimentality, and I really wish to emphasize this with the committee. I'm just speaking out of a sense of respect for and valorization of the community, and I hope that counts for something. In short, I also want to add that, and I said in my letter, unfortunately, contrary to the builder's assumption, I believe, is that most of the neighbors around here are not at all supportive of this. There's a lot of distress in the neighborhood. I know that I speak for many when I say that we would like to be supportive, but we cannot.
Anna, I'm sorry to cut you off. I need you to wrap up. You're almost at 5.5 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to say that the community, in terms of the neighbors, we would like to welcome the bill to the community and be supportive, but without changes to the plan, we cannot do that. And again, I just wish to hear from the committee on the issue of balancing density with maintaining the integrity of and character of the neighborhood, which is very important. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker, panel members? Okay, Carol, we're gonna try you again.
Hi, Carol. I'm just going to unmute you. Please ensure any other device is turned off or muted. And hopefully that will resolve the issue.
Also variances.
Hi, Carol. Can you hear us?
I still hear this other woman.
Okay. I've just muted
Do
you
you have
again.
something running in the background? Are you on a computer or?
I am on a computer.
Okay, do you have a meeting running in the background? Because something is
Only
running.
your meeting.
No, this is not our meeting. That's not us talking. It's different people.
But it's about committee and it's about variances. so
Right,
I
but
don't know what it
there's,
is.
because there are two hearings happening at the same time. That's not us. That's the other committee. Do you have it running in the background? Can you check on your computer?
Not that I'm aware of.
Or there may be a window open with the video playing.
I'm afraid to touch this for fear we'll be disconnected.
Okay.
If you get
So-
disconnected, we'll call you back.
So,
There's got to be a window running in the background or something.
Start by stating your name,
okay. So Carol, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a call at the number that you provided. So just use your phone device, okay? Just give us a minute.
Yeah, that's definitely the other.
Hi, Carol. Your phone device is. Carol, we're going to unmute your phone device. You'll need to not have it hands-free and or use a headset. Okay, I'm going to unmute.
I don't have a headset.
Okay. Maybe you need to mute your computer or take it off of speakerphone.
Okay, I don't know how to do that either. Can I just come off the...
Carol, maybe if you can step away from your computer and maybe go into another room just so that we don't hear the feedback from your computer speakers.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I think so. Say another sentence. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Is that better?
We're still getting feedback. I think the audio is being picked up by your computer.
Well, let's...
Are you far?
We can go.
Are you move as far away from the computer as you can?
That better?
Yeah, I think this
little
is.
bit, yeah.
Okay. Let's give it a shot. It sounds good. So, go ahead. We'll start your 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Carol Meinecker, and I live at 270 Dewhurst Boulevard North. I think you thought I was 270 Floyd, but I'm on the corner of Dewhurst and Floyd. I submitted a written submission, as you probably are aware, and I'm just going to rattle off the points I mentioned. Densification of the properties, fire safety, parking, Toronto Hydro, and the green space. Now, I actually want to speak to the architect's spreadsheet, so I don't know whether you want to bring that up for their convenience, the members' convenience. But I just want to make a couple of further comments about the densification. This development to me is an anomaly in East York. I've never seen 3 homes built side by side, ganged together visually as proposed, and requiring a raft of variances to achieve what I think is an unrealistic design and maximize an unrealistic expectation from the client. So now I'd like to just speak a little bit about the well, not so much the letter, but the attachment, the spreadsheet. I find minor variances are often necessitated by circumstances peculiar to the property which prevent the owner from developing in a way which conforms to the bylaw. And this contractor and architect must first demonstrate, in my view, that the variances are necessary and why there are practical difficulties in carrying out the strict regulations of the bylaw. I maintain that the contractor, by way of the architect, have no peculiar circumstances that justify applying for these many variances and having them approved, then maximizing the number of builds and therefore profit generated from the sale of 3 homes versus 2 homes, all the while impacting the sense of proportion of the streetscape, the appropriateness of the design, and the adverse impact on the neighbors. Now, I specifically want to speak to the spreadsheet. I would like to know why were the most recent approvals of variances requested through the Committee of Adjustment not included on this list, is my first point. The second point is noted entries included files dating back as far as 2007 and as recent as only 2016, 6 years ago. And my last point about that is we do not know whether there were any opposition to these applications before they were apparently approved. Now, I want to speak to 4 items on the spreadsheet specifically, that being the building length, the main wall height, the lot coverage, and the floor space index. So with respect to the building length, it indicates only 4 properties over the requested 18.29 meters, and all these properties came before the committee in 2007, 2008, and 2010, prior to the current bylaw. The second point is the main wall height in meters. Only 1 property noted is over the requested 8.4 meters, and that property is located at 241 Gowan Avenue and came before the committee in 2015 at 8.8 meters. Both of these neighbors to the 241 Gowan are 2-story buildings or 2-story homes, so they probably had no objection to the 241 variance. The third point is the lot coverage. The requested lot coverage of 48% is at the top end of the percentages approved, and only 1 property at 948 Greenwood Avenue is over the 48% and came before the committee in 2007. And actually this property is a duplex and it's adjacent to a laneway. So finally, the floor space index, the request for 0.95 times the area of the lots is at the upper limit of these properties listed, the limits noted. There's only 1 property which proposed 1.02 times the area of the lot at 247 Salmon Avenue, which came before the committee in 2015. The 2 adjoining properties to that property on Salmon Avenue appear to have extensions on their homes, so they probably were not adverse to the 1.02 times the lot area. So what I'd like to say further about this spreadsheet, the contractor/architect is requesting variances at the extreme upper limits of these properties listed. Although the architect has listed 21 properties, of which only 3 are duplexes, the 18 properties are all single-family dwellings on individual lots. And the last thing I'm going to say is, to me, in my view, the term minor variance is a misnomer. So that's basically all I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Mr. Irfan, are you there?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, can you please speak to the issues raised? You have 5 minutes starting now.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm going to refer first to the neighbor at 268 Floyd Avenue. We are providing 0.61 and their side yard is 0.25. If we add this is approximately 2 feet 10 inches. And any person can walk to service their, building or window or clean, the gutters. Even if we provide let's say 0.9, this will add another foot. The things will not change. The wall will be there. Whether we ask for additional coverage or FSI or, height or anything. As of right, the homeowner is allowed to build at 0.91. The 0.61 is consistent what has been approved in the neighborhood, in area, and it has been looked at by the planning, community planning staff. I would like to read that email that I have received from the community planning. And they clearly state that, hi Nadine, I was reviewing your application and see the variances are pretty close to what has been approved in the neighborhood. I have some concerns with the front yard soft landscaping variances. If there is any way that you could get closer to the soft landscaping requirement, whatever the bylaw says, we would be happy to recommend the application. So the concerns we understand, we are, there to work with the neighbors. But as of right, 3 lots are approved or can be approved because there is no lot frontage variance, there is no lot area variance. Once we have these lots created, we have approximately 20 feet. Out of that, if we were to leave 6 feet, 14 feet is not developable. That's why we're requesting these variances and we're coming to committee and we are showing through the chart, through the process with the community planning staff, with the zoning staff, that these are required to develop these, lands. They are minor, they are, desirable to develop these lands once we have created. The next neighbor is 266 Floyd. Again, going back, everybody is thinking that these are 2 houses, the 2 houses should be built. As of right, the owners can develop into 3 lots. Once the 3 lots are severed, they can come back and ask for variances. Maybe at that time would not be considered harsh, but at this time, because we're coming as a whole package, as a complete application, putting in front of the committee, putting in front of the staff, putting in front of the neighbors that this is what we want, and we are requesting that, be considered. I believe the density is referred to the lot coverage and FSI, but density is a term when it's the number of dwelling per hectare per acre. So the density meets the official plan intent. Density meets the zoning bylaw intent. So when we come back requesting some additional coverage or additional FSI, it is considered that it's density you're asking. Somebody stated about the parking. These dwellings will have their own parking, indoor parking, plus additional parking, pads, and there will be sufficient parking. I don't think it will cause any additional street parking issues or congestion or any variance for the required parking space. Yes, we are asking for instead of 3.2, we're asking 3 meter parking width, which is basically 4 inches on each side, but perhaps there is a parking spot would be there. Referring back to last speaker, again, everybody has an issue with the 3 lots, but the 3 lots are desired or permitted as of the right and comply with the official plan and also with the zoning bylaw. So we hope we are able, or I hope I am able to address everyone's concern. Yes, there is an opposition, but we have the support from the staff. Staff have looked at in detail this application. Development engineering has looked at it. They have no concern. Forestry has looked at it. They have no concern. Community planning has looked at it. There's no concern. We have a much support letter from the neighbors, and we trust that we meet the 4 tests, and committee can consider this for approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? No? If there are no questions, then we'll take it into committee. Any comments? Ms. Chan?
Perhaps I can start. Yes, I sort of go around the site plan and I noticed that the area immediately north on Gowan Street or Gowan Avenue, there actually many lots that are quite narrow. And also those houses are also like 2.5 story and also have some parking in front. And I, in my opinion, actually, I do support this development because I still think that it is a clever way to put some kind of intensification in the area, and I believe the planning department also in agreement, and I have no problem with the proposal as it is.
Mr. Clay?
Yeah, sure. In general, I agree with you. The lots comparably with similar severances elsewhere across the city are not small. In fact, as the agent points out, you know, they're not looking for a variance for frontage. These are only basically 2-story homes, and they're single-family homes. I would conjecture that this proposal is about as gentle density as gentle can come, in sense of infilling lots in established neighborhoods and trying to increase the housing stock. I don't think the design is overly offensive. I did want to acknowledge all the speakers who called in today. We heard what you said and we understand your concerns, but in a broader context of what's going on in the broader neighborhood and in the broader community, these are the kinds of applications that we're seeing a lot of, and it's not surprising given the housing issues that we have in this city. And it's not surprising on a street where there's a number of bungalows where houses are being redeveloped. And in fact, as I go up and down the street, there are several in both directions, houses where you know, new builds have been created. Looks like 2.5 stories in many cases. So it's not surprising for an area and a neighborhood in transition that you're going to have these kinds of proposals. And in the broader context, I don't have any difficulty with these. And I think in those terms, these are reasonable applications and reasonable proposals. And I don't think it's going to have a negative impact on the neighborhood, the street, and the community as some might think.
Mr. Neffel?
I differ somewhat from my colleagues. I heard the concern for character of the street, and this is an unusual street. It's not one that is so unusual that you can't find it elsewhere. But there are a lot of well-kept, really quite beautiful East-York bungalows side by side, and they create a rather dominant character to the street. Somebody mentioned it's not a historic district, and maybe that's the issue. Perhaps the East York bungalow warrants some kind of historic preservation action. But at the present time, we don't have it. And the bylaws that we are working with allow much of what you have before you, and the variances that are requested, in my view, are relatively minor. The buildings that are proposed are reasonable within those variances. So again, I don't disagree with the applicant's right to build these, and I don't think that is contrary in any way to the existing planning policies. But I do recognize the concern for character of the street. And all I would say is, if people feel strongly about that, then we need more policies in the official plan to protect that. I will be voting for this application because I think the variances that are requested are quite minor, and as was already indicated, the consent doesn't require variances for lot size or lot width. So I'm a little perplexed by the application. I sympathize with the objectors, but I will be supporting the application for the reasons I mentioned.
Okay. Is there a motion? Mr. Clay?
Oh, go ahead, Jim. Sure. Do you want this broken up into severances and then variances?
How do you want, no, staff says we can do them all at once.
Okay. Then I will, I'm happy to move approval of this application. There are conditions from engineering that relate to the severances, I believe. And then forestry has several conditions for part one, sorry, the forestry condition number 2 applies to each of the 3 parts.
Number 3, I think it is. Forestry condition number 3, and yeah, you're correct, it's for parts.
Consent, though.
So through
Part
you,
three's for the consent, I believe.
through you, Madam Chair, the Engineering Construction Services has 2 conditions for the consent and
Right.
1 condition for each of the minor variance applications. And then Urban Forestry for the consent is imposing the number 3 condition, and then for the minor variances, it would be number 2 and number 3.
Okay, so both of them on parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Thanks, Sabrina. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I said.
Yes, that sounds really good. I will second that.
All right, so motion to approve the application moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Ms. Chan. So that's the engineering conditions as outlined by staff and forestry as outlined by staff. Okay, all in favor? Okay, the application's been approved with those conditions. And thank you to all the speakers. Item number 40. 194 Hudson Drive. We have before us a copy of the minutes from the October 6th, 2021 meeting. We have revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations. More revisions were received on January 24th, as well as a zoning waiver that was revised, covering letters from Mr. Galbraith, the agent, presentation materials from the agent. We have forestry is, I believe, asking, I don't know, I scratched it out. I think they sent something superseding that. So correspondence in support from 310 Rose Park Drive and 6 form letters from Hudson Drive, number 92, 200, 191, and 198, 189, 190. Opposition from 154 Welland, 163, 165 Welland, and 155, as well as the Moore Park Residents Association, 159 Welland, 157, and 161. And just give me 1 second. So yeah, in our supplemental agenda, we received a covering letter, and I believe that the applicant, but I'll confirm with the agent that there's some changes to the variances. And then we also had the revised zoning waiver, as I mentioned, and the forestry report, which is basically stating a condition now. All right, do I have the agent on the line?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Galbraith. So am I correct? Are you removing variance 14, 15, and I wasn't sure what you're doing with 16?
16 is being revised to be less of a variance.
Okay, can you just go through the changes then before we go any further?
Sure. So in response to, Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the application, 18 King Street East, 1400. So in response to comments received in particular from Urban Forestry, over the weekend, the applicant, the owner and the architect revised the application, and doing so removed 2 of the variances. The below grade, the basement triggered a length and a depth variance, not the above grade portion. That is well within the allowable limits for length and depth, but they had an extended below grade basement that's been scaled back now, such that the whole building now complies with the building length and depth requirements, and those variances are no longer needed. The other change that was associated with that was the rear yard setback. With the pulling back of the basement, that's where the rear yard setback was measured to, and so that rear yard setback increased. be to 7.09 meters, where 7.5 is required. And that is, again, only for the below grade portion. The above grade portion well exceeds that.
Okay, so, so we're removing variance 14 and 15, and number 16 is being amended to 7.09 meters. And
Yes, that is correct. I believe we provided you with a consolidated, updated list of.
yeah, we got it late, but I was a little unclear on 16, that's all, so thanks for clarifying.
Yep.
I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do we have all 5 speakers? I have 5 opposition speakers, so I'm gonna reset the clock, and if you can do a presentation for us for 5 minutes.
If the first letter could be brought up that I submitted, there's some graphics that I think are helpful to illustrate what is being proposed.
Okay, so
Basically, what is being proposed is replace the existing 2.5/3-story house with a new 3-story house. The house is on a fairly small lot that's on a curve in the street, and that's triggering a number of the variances, or making some of the variances worse than they might otherwise be. Scroll down. There's a rendering there of the proposed massing. There is a front step back at the 3rd floor to create a front balcony on the 3rd floor, a portion of which will be a green roof. And above the entirety of the 3rd floor roof will be all green roof, and with an access there just to get up to it. The original application that was before you, when you deferred, originally had a partial rooftop deck. The rooftop deck has been entirely removed, and it's all green roofed. We can scroll down. Again, you can see a rendering looking at the backyard. The second image there with the yellow, this shows the what an as-of-right depth and height would be on this property, and the green is sort of yellow and blue makes green. The blue is what is proposed. As you can see, it extends far less into the property than would be proposed without variances. Our proposed building length and depth is in the 14-meter range versus the 17 or 19-meter range. In doing so, we have shifted the front of the building forward a little bit. You can see in the dark black outline, that's the outline of the existing house. And so we've shifted it forward a little bit, primarily on the 2nd floor, to create more space in the backyard and to move it away from the houses, primarily the house to the north and the houses to the on Welland, to create more space in the backyard than we're required to provide by the zoning bylaw. This triggers a couple extra variances, but on the trade-off between providing a more sensitive design towards the neighbors versus triggering an extra variance or two, we thought that was a good reasonable trade-off. It doesn't create impacts in doing it this way, and it removes impacts that might have been generated if we did it another way. If you could scroll down. Those are just some other photos of 3-story buildings in the neighborhood, which already exist. That little illustration there basically shows the corner of the proposed house and the corner of the property line where the street curves, and that is triggering the front yard setback variance. Most of the front of the house complies with the front yard setback requirements, but because the house or the street curves, if you recall, the front yard setback is the average of the 2 houses on either side, and the curve in the street exaggerates the front yard setback requirement. And so this corner is the corner for which the variance applies. We could scroll down. We're proposing to replace, there's this little shed in the backyard. We're proposing to replace it with a new little shed that's a little bit smaller, but is in the same location as the existing one, and that has been there, I believe, since the property was originally constructed 100 years ago. We can scroll down. That's the old rear yard setback calculations that no longer is applicable. There's a photo in here of the backyard that I wanted to bring up, just to, there we go. Just to give you a sense of how small the property is and how small the backyard is. So the existing backyard is mostly pool. And we're removing most of that pool and putting in a more of a lap pool oriented towards the northern side of the rear of the property. But it's not a very big backyard. It's the small property is sort of exaggerating the size of the FSI required. It's not, I don't believe that this is a large house. I believe that this is a small property. But recognizing that it is a small property, the house has been scaled back quite substantially compared to what it would be permitted in terms of depth and length and to some extent height. It's shorter than it's allowed to be, and it's nowhere near as long or as deep as it's allowed to be. And that's because it's trying to be respectful of its context and its character of the area.
Okay, can I ask you to wrap up? You're almost at 6 minutes.
I think that's basically the gist of it. I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee has or respond to any comments that are provided by members.
Okay, well, I'm going to call on the opposition, and then we'll have you come back, and then the members will ask questions also at that time. Okay, let's start with Mr. Bogdan.
Hi, good evening. Excuse me, good evening, everyone. Gordon Bogdan, President of the Moore Park Residents Association. And this is, as the panel is aware, this is the second time we've submitted a letter of opposition to this application. And the first application, as you may recall, there were 19 variances indicated, and in this application has been resubmitted with 18. I've just seen the revisions that were just provided on the 24th of January as well. If we continue to oppose this application, I'm not going to get into a huge amount of detail in the efforts of just being time sensitive, but this building, this design is just, it's an overbuilding. It's a very large building on a small lot. As a result, you've got a house, as you can see in the diagrams, in the renderings. It's 13 meters, 42 foot, 42 feet high at the very, very top. As you've got a stair access to the green roof, which allows, which itself really compromises the privacy of the neighbors, particularly on Welland Avenue. The backyards there will be very, very much intruded upon by just visually standing on that green roof and peering into the adjoining neighbors. The other big variance, of course, as we've indicated, that we're in opposition to is the FSI of 1.11, which is really 85% more than allowable, as you're aware. We, as a rule of thumb, as you're aware, panel in Moore Park use 0.8. To go to 1.1 is just a gross overstatement of that and sets a very, very poor precedent for our neighborhood. We've been before the panel several times, as you recall, as you're very aware of, defending situations that were just even over 0.8, and this is grossly in excess of that. It's doesn't meet the 4 proposal tests, of course, that you look to. Are these variances requested minor? We submit that they are not minor. They are not minor. Is this proposal desirable or appropriate? We suggest no, it is inappropriate to build such a large 3-story house on such a small lot. It towers above the neighbors, causes excessive massing on the streetscape, and results in a loss of privacy for the neighbors. Does it meet the general intent or purpose of the zoning bylaw? We submit it does not. It appears to ignore many of the requirements of the zoning bylaw. And finally, does it meet the general intent purpose of the OP, which speaks to maintaining and enhancing streetscapes of our neighborhoods? And this proposal, in our view, would result in a house that would be highly impact the streetscape and significantly intrude on the privacy of its neighbors. So I'll just conclude there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speakers, panel members? Okay, thank you, sir. Do I have the next speaker on the line?
Peter Whittington, you're unmuted.
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Hi, Peter. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Absolutely, thank you, Madam Speaker. It's Peter Whittington, 161 Welland Avenue.
Okay, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Thank you. These variances are many and far from minor. Therefore, we strongly oppose the reapplication submitted for 194 Hudson Drive. At present, privacy is fairly decent given the skill with which our neighborhood was laid out in the 1920s. From our ground floor, we can see 2 medium-sized windows on the existing structure. If you can please reference drawing A3.2. Now, imagine the negative effect of 3 full stories, each with higher ceilings than existing, mostly of glass, with multiple platforms brought 9 feet closer in addition to a large roof access structure. We disagree with Mr. Galbraith. Please reference drawing A0.2 showing the structure does in fact come into the backyard more than the existing. In addition, the maximum permitted height is 7.2 meters. The new dwelling will have a height of 10.51, excluding the rooftop stair enclosure. We don't have time to go through all our concerns here, but there are some conflicting issues that we've uncovered in the reapplication, and we feel it extremely important to address. Variance number 4 reads, a maximum of 1 platform is permitted to be located on the rear wall at or above the 2nd story of the detached dwelling. In this case, there will be 2 platforms located on the west rear wall at or above the 2nd story of the detached dwelling, including the rooftop deck. This is very important. Variance number 4 revision wording still includes the request for a rooftop deck on the west rear wall. This will create a lot of confusion and conflict with what is being presented what is being presented in other parts of the submission as a 100% green roof. According to the drawings, this area of the roof will also have a glass guardrail, adding to the intrusion on our property. Regarding the reduced size of 2nd floor rear balcony from 14.67 square meters to 8.69 square meters, if you look at rear elevation drawings, the size of the opening hasn't changed. They've only put planters on each side of the platform opening. In our opinion, this isn't a reduction, and these could easily be removed later. The applicants say they've reduced the 2nd story or higher rear decks from 3 to 2. We believe this is not only misleading, but claiming reductions in size is a stretch. Regarding the removed 3rd floor rear deck, the original plan had a protruding balcony spanning the entire width of the master bedroom. This has been replaced by a protruding planter spanning the same width with noted planter access by windows. To gain access to the far ends of the planters, floor-to-ceiling windows will have to slide open, creating, in essence, a balcony. If the rooftop is said to have a deck, for instance, the reapplication, the roof access structure must be considered as part of the overall height of the entire structure, bringing the height back to that of the original application at 12.95 meters. This roof structure is 8 feet high, 18 feet 6 3/4 inches long, which is more than half the length of the roof. The roof is 7 foot 2 inches, which includes a staircase and extra living space, plus there's an added overhang. We'd like to point out that the basement staircase structure, also considered an ancillary building and not included in the square foot count, is significantly smaller at 12 foot long by 3 foot 2 inches wide. If both of these are considered merely utility staircases, why should the roof structure be permitted to be so much larger? The iceberg style basement comes out another 17 feet to the west property line from the 2nd floor exterior wall. The basement alone would go from 572.7 square feet to 1,535 square feet with your able to add this, the green roof access, third floor terrace, and second floor balcony, the living space is approximately 5,876 square feet. I realize, and we just got this information about 2 hours ago, that the basement plan has been scaled back. So these numbers are not, but it's still real. This is on the lot, obviously too small for such a mammoth structure. If the applicants want to stay in the neighborhood but desire such an enormous house, there are plenty of larger lots in Moore Park. All letters of objection have been backed up with a thorough examination of the proposal in question. All messages of support, with the exception of one, which is a significant distance from 114 Hudson Drive, have an identical signed form of letters, none of which give any concrete reasons for their support. This proposal calls for 18 local bylaws to be worked with.
Mr. Whittington, sorry to cut you off. I need you to wrap up. You're over 5 minutes.
I've got about three sentences left.
Okay.
Even by the questionable count of the square footage, it still calls for square footage, which is 85% more than the amount. Bylaws exist for a reason. Why haven't they been circumvented? We've been in this neighborhood, beautiful historic neighborhood, for 25 years. We've never had a problem with public notice of minor variances until now. I'd like to thank the committee for their careful consideration of this application and sincerely hope that it is not passed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker, panel members? Seeing none, okay, have you got the next speaker on the line?
Hi, Tom, you're unmuted. Tom Logan, you're unmuted. You may need to unmute on your own device.
Are you calling for Tom Logan?
Yes, we are. Are you Tom?
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, sir, we need...
Yes, I am online.
I'm sorry, we need your address before you do your submission.
My address is 159 Welland Avenue.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes. We're starting the clock now.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a couple of contextual comments. I've been a Moore Park resident for 42 years. I've been in this house for 21 years. Previously on Heath and on Rosedale Heights Drive. So I'm a long-term resident of the neighborhood and intimately aware of its character, its dynamics, and its renewals. With that as background, we have to follow the process according to the City of Toronto.
Mr. Logan?
Yes.
Are you moving?
Yes.
Are you moving back and forth? Because one second.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay, because you're fading in and out. Okay, let's try again. We got the part.
You're fading in and out.
Am I? Well, okay. Okay, go ahead. Try again.
Sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. So we did catch the part about you being a long-term resident, so just continue from there.
Yeah, whatever. We followed the process. We sent the letters and we've attended the virtual meetings. I'll keep this very short. We've made a detailed submission, as have 7 of our neighbors, all of which clearly articulate their concerns on the variances and the impact of same. We maintain, as do our neighbors primarily, on both sides, 161, Mr. Whittington, whom you've heard from, and Mr. Clark, who I believe is next in queue, as well as Mr. Bogdan from Moore Park Association. The comments we have relate to three areas of impact. One, the elevation is as well articulated by Mr. Whittington is very high and is intrusive from a privacy aspect. The footprint is egregiously large, and it borders directly on our property. And we worry a little bit about whether or not we're going to have a garage sink into our neighbor's backyard at some point in time, because the build out abuts the garage area. And the third area of concern, and well articulated in letters, and responses, in the formal responses, is the number of platforms and the size of platforms. In short order, this clearly does not fit, and we believe that it is an overbuild. We're quite open to something a little more modest in proportion. We're not against development. We're just against egregious outsized requests. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Okay, seeing none. Do you have Mr. Clark on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can, but if you could speak up a little bit, that would be helpful.
Sure, I will do my best, and I will do my best to keep this brief because I agree with everything that has been said by my neighbors and the Norfolk Association so far.
So I just need your address before you...
My name is Robert Clark, and my address is 157 Welland Avenue.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
We submitted a detailed letter to the city outlining our concerns with the numerous variances requested. I won't go into to repeat the detail, but our primary area of concerns relates to building height, massing, the overall size, and the balconies, platforms, and capacity that is impacted as a result. The height, as evident from the plans, in the original proposal, the roof terrace was included and called a terrace with the stair access. I don't believe anything's really changed to the design other than saying that they will clamp the roof entirely. Access doesn't change. There remains a plat or a railing, excuse me, around the green roof, which in all intents and purposes, I believe, will make it still a terrace and therefore have the potential to severely impact the privacy of all the properties in the vicinity. The massing, which Mr. Galbraith has pointed out, is not distinctly different from the as of right. I don't share that opinion because in the image that he had shown in his letter doesn't reflect the fact that the as of right would have a pitched roof versus the full third story. The size of the property, as measured by FSI, again, I disagree with the statement that because it's a small lot, we should increase the FSI. FSI is calculation based, as you all know, based on the size of the property, what is an appropriate building. And this is nearly, in my read of it, nearly double what is allowable by the variances. And finally, which I've sort of touched on already, is the balconies and platforms. There are more balconies and platforms than are permitted by the bylaws, and the balconies that are requested are greater in size than is permitted by the bylaws. So in terms of the four tests, I fail to see how this property satisfies any of them, particularly the first 18 variances, most of which are not minor on their own, and taken together cannot be minor. And I will end it there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Okay, seeing none. Do you have Ms. Hopkins on the line?
Hi, Leanne, you're unmuted. You may need to unmute on your device or move closer to the microphone. Leanne, yep, you're unmuted.
Hi there. I didn't ask to speak. However, I will happily say I am in full support of the building on our street. I think it will be a huge improvement to the look and feel of the street, and a huge improvement to what's currently on the property.
Okay, Leanne, just to confirm, you're at 82 Hudson Drive?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of the speaker, panel members? No? Okay. Thanks a lot. Mr. Galbraith, are you there?
I am.
All right, we're gonna start 5 minutes again, and if you could speak to the issues raised.
Okay, I think I have them here. So first, there is no height variance. The height is, as proposed, it's less than it is permitted by the zoning bylaw. The rooftop deck, there is no, deck or platform there. It is purely a green roof to add, to aid in water retention and soft landscaping of sorts on the property. The original design did have a deck, and it was going to be used as, amenity space, and that has been entirely removed, but according to the bylaw, it's still considered to be a platform. And so the variance, unfortunately, still applies. The third floor balcony that used to project out the back has been removed, and at best, what has been replaced, it could be considered perhaps a Juliet balcony, but primarily it's just windows looking towards the rear yard. The second floor balcony in the back is actually inset within the building. The third floor cantilevers over it. It doesn't project beyond the rear wall. So I don't believe that there is a notable privacy impact from windows on a rear wall building. And I note that there are rear windows on the third floor of the existing building. In terms of privacy impacts, I mean, they're small lots, and they're pretty densely packed. And I think you can see in the photograph of the rear yard, you can already see, into adjacent properties. I note that we have the support of both adjacent neighbors on Hudson. It was nice to hear the support from the other person on the street as well. There was a comment about the basement stair. There used to be a basement stair in the original design of the shed, accessing the larger basement area. With the shrinking back of the basement, we've also removed the staircase in that shed. It now is just a standalone shed. There's a comment that the building is just really, really big. And if you refer to the image that I showed, showing the as of right length and depth and height, the building, I think overall is frankly smaller, significantly smaller than we would be permitted to build without variances in terms of length and depth. Yes, that one there. I think this has been quite sensitively designed for its context. It doesn't project beyond its neighbor to the south. It doesn't. The neighbor to the north is it's on a 45-degree angle, and it's been designed so that it doesn't sort of go past that corner, and it tries to stay away from the houses on Welland. I think, in my opinion, this is quite sensitively designed compared to what the bylaw would otherwise anticipate for this property. Appreciating that it did. In doing so, it did sort of trigger perhaps a few extra variances. But on the balance, again, we think that this is a much more appropriate design for its context. It does take into consideration its neighbors. I think that was all of the comments. If I missed any, or if you have any other comments or questions, I would be happy to answer.
No, let's, okay, Mr. Clay and then Ms. Chan have questions.
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Galbraith, I have a couple of questions. The first is in respect to the urban forestry report. You had gone through the various recommendations that forestry had made and have made adjustments to variances 14, 15, and 16. Now, I don't think I heard you refer to variance 11, which forestry also recommends us denying. It's the setback for the ancillary?
Oh, so that ancillary building used to have a basement. It used to have, because it had a staircase going down into the basement, it was caught up in the same below grade issue that the basement had. So when we scaled back the basement and we removed the staircase going down into the basement, it's now just slab on grade, the shed. It's my understanding that Urban Forestry no longer has any objection to that.
Okay,
They
so
provided a letter to that effect.
they have we got that in our file, Chair? I didn't
If,
see that.
in the supplemental agenda, there is a forestry staff report, which I believe overrides what we had before. And it's asking for condition number 2 for a submission of a complete application for permit to injure or remove a privately owned tree. So I'm assuming that relates to the issue you raised.
Okay, thank you. I have another question.
And part of the, apologies, and one of the other changes that we made from the original application, again to protect trees, is the original application didn't have, or had a new north wall that was closer to the north side yard. That was changed to retain the existing north wall to preserve the tree and not create any additional impacts on the tree on the property to the north, again with which Urban Forestry appreciated.
That's great, thank you. My second question is in regards to the rooftop, we're not calling it a deck, it's a platform, but it's a green roof. So that's got, that's not surprising that that's got a lot of your neighbors concerned. It's quite laudable to put in a green roof, as we all know. But I do notice it still has an access stair that juts out, and I appreciate that's not part of the height variance. But it is.
Yeah, the zoning bylaw permits maintenance for that. I think we would be fine with the condition that this only be used for a green roof purpose and not amenity space of sorts. We don't put like a, you know.
That's that's very prescient, because that's where I was going on this one. You know, I
It's
think
intended entirely to be green roof.
Yeah, I think that might give some of the surrounding neighbors a little bit of comfort to know that that space would not be used by anyone for amenity purposes. I just wanted to ask also then, the railing that's around it, what is it made of? What's it proposed to be made of right now?
Right now, it's proposed just to be glass so that it minimizes its visual profile, and it's purely a safety rail.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at too. Anything to minimize the perception of height, if in fact that's where we go, I think
That's
would
the
be
intention.
appropriate. Okay,
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Chan?
Yes, actually, I have the same question about the roof, and I have some concerns. As it is, your railing is 3'6". It makes if it's a green roof, you said that it's only for safety. I thought that 3'6" is actually for deck that is accessible, as be used as in a recreation area or just accessible. But if it's just a green roof, you go up there just to maintain the green roof. Do you require the safety guard all around? That's my question. Only because to me it doesn't. It is the same as accessible that you can actually go up there and occupy it, right?
It is my understanding that it is required. However, if it is not required by building code, we wouldn't unnecessarily build it. If it's not required, it won't be built, but I believe that it is required.
Okay, Mr. Nipfel?
Mr. Galbraith, perhaps I misunderstood, but I thought you said there wasn't a height variance. You're still requesting in variance number 1 a height of 10.51, are you not, or that hasn't changed?
Hold on a second, here's the sec. Apologies. I apologize. It is, yes, it is required. I apologize. It is required because it is a flat roof. But I should have said that if it was not a flat roof or a traditional peak roof, the maximum permitted height for this area is 11 meters. So that's what is reflected.
You still do require that variance number 1.
Yes, I apologize. I misspoke there. So I was thinking of that illustration that I had showing the pitched roof.
Yep.
A pitched roof design could be taller. It could have a more mass, more volume of a building, and not trigger a variance.
And I had the same question as Ms. Chan. I stand to be corrected, but we've had a number of green roofs on projects today. And to the best of my recollection, most of them didn't have barriers. They were treated as an interesting way, a climatically sensitive way of dealing with the roof. So if you, in fact, don't need by bylaw a barrier or a railing, I think removing it would go a long way to helping the citizens trust that it's not in fact going to be used for any purposes other than to grow grass and other green materials.
I'm certainly not a building code expert. It's my understanding that it's a building code question.
Okay, if it's required by the building code, definitely, but
yeah.
I think Ms. Chan's got a good point. It's maybe worth having a look at.
I've been texting with the architect, and she has said that it's her understanding that it is required. On those other projects, they may not have shown it, but they may be required to put one in when they actually go for permits. We're actually showing it now.
Fair enough.
Well, I just as context, I recall a similar green roof on a laneway suite a while ago, and we were told that there is a building code requirement. It's a safety requirement. The question I
think
have,
that was my project. I think that was mine.
So it may be an issue about what type of structure and how high it has to be.
Okay.
Could be.
Mr. Galbraith.
That's where I first. Sorry, I apologize.
No.
That's where on that laneway suite. That was where I first learned about this requirement.
I just have a question. I visited the site and I noticed that there are several new homes that are similar, like modern design. I think there's one or two across this, well, they're all on the other side of the street, but one or two are directly across. How does the massing and height compare with what you're building? I think your grade's slightly higher on that side, but in terms of context, how does...
The ones on the other side of the street, there are a number of 3-story and modern sized buildings. Those are, it's hard to compare them otherwise if they're very deep ravine lots.
Okay.
So their FSI would be different, and in terms of height, they, I believe they precede the current zoning bylaw.
Okay, thanks.
So it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, when you go to visit, they look very tight from the street also.
Yeah.
So.
In my letter, I included a couple some photos of the 3-story buildings in the neighborhood. There are a number of them, and they certainly they're certainly larger. Right there, budget there. They're not particularly great photos, but you can sort of see that they're certainly they're large 3-story buildings.
Okay.
Including the 318 Heath, which is at the corner of the south end of this block. Have the full sidewall exposed, and it's not a modern building. It's just one of the original old 3-story large houses.
Mr. Nipfel, I believe, has another question.
I apologize if I'm belaboring things, but there've been so many changes I may have missed them. On variance number 4, I'm concerned with the wording. It says it hasn't changed, has it?
No.
Okay, I would myself be inclined to remove the term rooftop deck. I think that just misleading.
Green roof?
Yeah, I don't think we should call it a rooftop deck. That does suggest that people are are using it for recreational purposes, and that, as I understand it, is not your intent. So
No.
I would think that the wording of that variant should say including the green roof instead of the rooftop deck.
We would be okay with that, absolutely. We agree that we don't want there to be confusion either. I think that would be an appropriate change.
Okay, are there any other questions, panel members? Alrighty, I think we're ready to go into committee. Any discussion, panel members? Ms. Chan?
I can start because I think that we realize this is a very big house on a lot, but I do not agree with the logic of the rooftop green roof or deck, because I do not see any difference if this is the deck. It's an accessible space and people can occupy it, because I think a safety guard for maintenance is different from a safety guard for occupied space. And that's the logic is that a green roof is not required. Since they propose a green roof, then they have to put the stair up there. And then since there's access to the roof, they have to put a guard. And I actually got bothered by the height of this proposal. If it can be reduced a bit, and I will in support of it. But as it is, I think it's just too massive.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Nipfel?
Madam Chairman, I think in many respects, this is a really well-considered design. There's a lot about it to praise. Wherever there's a terrace or a balcony, there's a planter on the ends or at the edges to prevent overlook and privacy. I think the massing of the building has been sensitively handled. So I have no trouble at all with the way in which the design has evolved. I agree with Yin, however. I'm concerned with the height. I think that the 10.51 is a little excessive on this site. I have no difficulty with any of the other aspects of the application, but I do have trouble with variance number 1.
Okay, Mr. Clay?
So I'm not sure how I'll compare my comments to my colleagues. I looked around the neighborhood and I heard a lot from neighbors, particularly those in behind, who were concerned about the impact of this on character and neighborhood. And I respectfully don't agree with that. I think this is a neighborhood of large lots, large homes, mostly, particularly on the remaining portion of Hudson. So I don't think that this size of the building and the massing that's being proposed, which I don't find offensive at all, would be at all out of character, or not in keeping with the types of development, large developments that are increasingly occurring in this neighborhood. I appreciate that the owner has made some significant moves to adjust the variances from the last time it was before this committee, and I think that's to be commended. I'm not as fussed, Carl, about the height, because I think, even we see that a lot where flat roofs are treated differently than peak roofs, so I'm not as fussed about that. I do kind of share Yim's concern about the rooftop area. As we all know, when you get third-story rooftops that people have access to, it freaks people out, because there's always the concern that it's going to be used for loud noises or overlook concerns, and that's, I think, aided by the retention of stairs that give access to the rooftop. I've seen rooftop patios or green roofs that don't have stairs up, or at least not internal stairs. So I'm buoyed a little bit by I think our ability to put some conditions around that, that would eliminate this being used for any kind of recreational or amenity space by the owners. And to Yim's point, I agree, if you're gonna put a 3.5 foot railing around there, that just encourages people to use it. I think if you had what the building code would require, which I think is a lot lower, and only a bar, that would be there principally for safety purposes, for anyone who has to access the roof to, you know, do maintenance on the green portion of it. I think I'm comfortable. I would prefer not to have seen the internal staircase up there, frankly, but then how else would you get access to it? So either we, in my view, either we approve it with conditions, or in some fashion approve it without approving the green roof and its associated access.
To add to your comment, Larry, to get up to it, quite often we have to maintain a lot of roofs, right? Often we put hatch. We do not need actually a stair going up. The hatch can open up, and just
right.
Green roofs are not supposed to have to maintain continuously, right? Just once, because they're meant to be self what do you call it? Self-supported. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, it would give me a little bit more comfort if somehow the design didn't give either this owner or maybe even a future owner access to the roof for using it for purposes which we would generally agree amongst us that are inappropriate.
Mr. Niffel?
Larry, that's exactly where I was going with my concern for height. If the stairway wasn't there, and we weren't inviting mistrust about how the roof will be used, and there wasn't a direct access to the roof for the green roof, I don't think you need the barrier around the edge. Alternatively, the green roofs could go. I mean, I'd hate to see this project defeated because of an attempt to put a green roof in and the need for a stairway to service it. So my question to the applicant would be, if the green roof was not part of the
Okay, Carl, let me just go, okay, we're just going out of committee then, if you're going back to the applicant, so go ahead.
If the stairway was not part of the application, what would variance number 1 be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
But it says it says excluding the staircase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the staircase is included.
So variance number 1 is required because it is a flat roof.
Okay, and so if the staircase was removed, it doesn't change variance number 1.
It would. We would be down to, I believe, 9.97 because there's a little extra height because of the green roof. So if we got rid of the staircase and we got rid of the green roof, we could lower the height to 9.97. Or if the staircase is a challenge, we could do a roof hatch, for example, instead of a staircase. But you would still have the perception of having access to the roof.
But if you did that, would it still be 9.97? I thought you just said with removal of the green roof.
So yeah, if we remove if we keep the green roof, it needs to be 10.51 because the green roof has to be a bit thicker because of weight and soil volume and stuff. But if we get rid of the green roof, we could do 9.97, as I understand it, and then there would be obviously no need for a hatch or a staircase or any wheel.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I personally, I could support that.
Okay. Are we back in committee then? Yeah?
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I just okay, we're back into discussion then. We're back in committee.
Sorry, Carl, which option would you're
I would remove the green roof and the green roof and the stair, and then reduce the height in variance number 1 to what Mr. Galbraith just gave us, which is
9.97.
I think that's quite reasonable. As I said in my original comments, there is much about this this project to be praised. I think it's a remarkably well thought out building, and I think its interface with adjacent neighbors in the neighborhood has been well considered. I think height is an issue, and the perception that there's a deck, even if there isn't a deck, is a problem for the community. I think, all things considered, removing the green roof and the stairway is a step in the right direction.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
No, I just wanted to say that in this case, then, variance number 4, instead of including the green roof, which we talked about earlier, that end part after the comma gets removed then, right? Okay.
Through you, Madam Chair, what I would suggest is the purpose of application also has to be amended. So we would have to remove with a rooftop stair enclosure and green roof.
Okay.
Variance number 1 would change to 9.97 meters. Again, removing then measure to the top of the dwelling, because then it's not a green roof with a stair enclosure. Variance number 4 exactly, we'll have to remove including the green roof. And then also variance number 5, the area of the 3rd floor front platform will be 26.02 square meters, and it breaks it down into 6.1 square meters of green roof and 19.84 square meters of balcony. So that'll have to be amended, as well as the area of the rooftop will be 68.37 square meters, which is the green roof. So that'll have to be eliminated. And then I believe all the other variances, 14, 15 get eliminated, and variance number 16 is now 7.09 meters.
And then variance 4, we remove that section that references the rooftop deck. Okay.
And that would be all for the modifications.
Okay, I'm just gonna, Mr. Galbraith, just back to you, sorry. So does that all make sense to you then?
So the one that jumped out at me was, I just wanted to double check number 5. Number 5, only the last part of it pertaining to the rooftop, the green roof, would change.
Yeah, that would be removed. Does everything else stay the same? I thought you were changing something there, staff, so I'll have her repeat
So through you, Madam Chair, then it would read, the area of the 2nd floor rear platform will be 8.69 square meters. The area of the 3rd floor front platform will be 26.02 square meters.
Correct. Yeah, those don't change.
Right. Yeah, I also thought that I heard something different, but I think we're good.
Because as part of that 26.06 square meters, it shows 6.1 square meters green roof and 19.84 square meters balcony.
Right, it has its own little sub-green roof on the front.
There's a green roof up there as well.
Yes, there is. We
Okay.
tried to really maximize the amount.
Okay, so that would stay.
That list of changes sounded good to me.
Okay, so you follow all the amendments here?
I think I did.
All right, okay.
I think I did.
Okay, going back into committee then.
Thank you.
Okay, do we need to repeat them all, or, okay, I think we've got them all.
Staff have noted all the changes.
So staff have noted all the changes. I think I have them all noted. And I hope you guys all noted them, and let's continue here. Is there a motion or further discussion?
Just final points, I think, before we go to motion. I just want to, we hate to lose a green roof. They are important contributions to the canopy and the ability to absorb rainwater and such, so they're good things to have. But in cases like this, where the green roof causes this kind of complication, I think Carl's idea of eliminating it is the most sensible one to allow this application, which I think we all agree otherwise is a reasonable application to proceed, so.
Okay, so who wants to do the honors here?
I don't know if it's an honor, but,
Well-
I'm happy to, because I think staff have all the various changes, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you want to run through them again, or you're okay?
I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So I'll just make a motion to approve this application with all the previously discussed and agreed upon changes to the variances, which staff have noted. I think Forestry has a condition that still is in play.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, in the January 25th report, so that's.
Okay, so that, subject to the forestry condition. Do we have to reference the amended site plan, or the revised site plan, or are we fine with what we've got?
Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, is anything we have to, or do we need to get a revised site plan, or?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we would need revised plans, which eliminates the green roof and the stair enclosure.
Okay, so the motion would be subject to receipt of revised site plans and elevations.
Yeah, to reflect the, all of the amendments. Okay.
Does
Does that work? Yeah, that's good. Yep. Okay, so that's the motion, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Okay, the application has been approved as amended. Okay, thank you everyone for your patience and understanding on this one. So we are now going to go to our final item today, which is 41-228 Evelyn Avenue. We have before us a copy of the minutes from the October 20th meeting. We have a copy of survey, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent. We have 10 form letters in support from 226 and 230, so both adjacent neighbors, 133, 139 Fairview Avenue, as well as 130, 133, and 139, I don't know, I seem to see some duplications. Anyway, everyone is in support. I don't see any objection letters here. Let me just check the supplemental. No, okay. And I don't have any speakers listed. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chris Naylor. I am representing our client. I am from Naylor Architect, Inc.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thanks for your patience. Panel, we only have 2 variances before us. I don't think we need a presentation. Do any of you have any questions? No? Okay, Mr. Naylor, we've read the materials. We're ready to go into committee. Is there anything you want to add before we do so?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay. All right, panel members, we're in committee. Mr. Nipfel.
Madam Chairman, I believe that this is a very straightforward application that doesn't really have any negative implications for the neighborhood or the neighbors themselves. I don't have any difficulty supporting it. I'd like to move approval without condition.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Chan. So motion to approve, moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Ms. Chan. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
All right, good night. We stand adjourned at 7:12.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, good night,
And staff.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
evening.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you guys later.
Bye.